Hey, what's going on, guys? So on this episode of the Ecom Performance Marketing Show, I've got an incredible young entrepreneur. He's 23, Josh Kim. He owns the 7A Accelerator, and he helps businesses just like you get funding from the SBA. He facilitates the entire process for you, and he makes it simple, easy, so this way you can get the funding you need to be able to scale your business to the next level. So it's going to be an incredible episode. We're going to cover a topic that is unlike any other topic we've covered here on the show. Let's jump in. Are you ready to transform your normal e-commerce business into one that experiences exponential growth year after year using online advertising? If so, this show is for you. Me and my guests will show you how you too can grow your e-commerce business to 7 or even 8 figures so you can go on more luxurious vacations, spoil yourself and your family, say yes to more opportunities, and become financially free so you never have to worry about money again. Welcome to the E-commerce Performance Marketing Show. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Ecom Performance Marketing Show. My name is Josh Marsden, and I've got an incredible guest for you today. I've got Josh Kim here of the 7A Accelerator. And we're going to talk about a totally different topic than we usually talk about, but this is a powerful topic that can really make a huge impact on your business and your growth, because Josh here is going to talk about the SBA and all the options with the SBA and how you can really leverage these options in your e-commerce business, which is going to give you more resources so you can scale faster. So it's going to be an incredible episode. I'm really excited for it. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, great to be here. Glad for us making some time to jump on here. Yeah, like you said, I'm really excited to talk. I think that a lot of businesses in the e-commerce and online, really just online businesses in general, are not well catered to or educated by a lot of lenders as to what options are really out there when it comes to, financing. And, it's a real barrier. I mean, people can only grow a business so far with credit cards and short-term loans here and there. A lot of times you get to the scale where you need something more permanent, and that's a lot of times where these loans can come in. So I'm happy to talk about it and hopefully educate the audience and, find some people who can help out with these resources.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for the topic because I know how much of an impact it can have. I've been in the e-commerce space now for over 8 years, so I totally get it. Before we dive in, can you tell the audience a little bit about your backstory and how you got started and just your company and what you guys do?
Yeah, so it's funny. I know you'll like this because so for the audience, my first email to Josh, he looked up on my site and kind of some background on myself. He's like, hey, you've got a really interesting story, and I think this would be a great topic for the audience. But I actually bought my first business with an SBA loan at 19 years old. I got about $1.2 million from a big SBA lender to go buy a healthcare services company in Illinois near the Chicagoland area, and through that experience, I learned a lot about what it's like going through the SBA process, what it takes to get the loan, what the banks are looking for, what the issues are that most people run into when they're trying to get financing. And, I realized recently that, there's a lot of problems that people run into, with getting financing. A lot of it just comes down to they're not educated by lenders about what you can really do. And so, the reason I started this business with 7A Accelerator is I realized, look, I've got this wealth of knowledge around how to go get financing. And a lot of business owners are, kind of in the dark about it. And so what we do with 7A Accelerator, I break it down to a 3-prong approach. We educate people first about what options are there. We consult with them about what their goals are for their business. And then, we pair them up with a lender that will finance their kind of project. Every bank has a different credit box and different, deal appetite. Some bankers really like doing deals in healthcare. Some of them don't. Some of them really like online businesses. Some of them don't. So a lot of the battle is just getting paired up with the correct lenders to start with. And that's really the biggest value add we have after educating a business owner about what options are there is, pair them up with the right lender.
Nice. And how does your service work exactly? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah. So, if you book a call with us, generally what we'll do is we'll have a discovery call just to validate that, you'll be a suitable client. So we'll ask some basic qualifying questions. How much revenue you guys have? What's your net earnings? How long has the business been around? What kind of general credit score do you have? Really just the basic factors to make sure that you'll be able to qualify. But, what I tell people is a lot of them is saying, a lot of the mental barriers that people have is that, you need a lot of collateral, you need a lot of cash and this and that. It's like, I had 20 grand in my name when I got $1.2 million out of, the bank that gave me the money for my deal. And the reason they did it is because the cash flow was there. The cash flow of the business that I was taking over with my operating partner was, a very solid business. And so they looked at the numbers and like, all right, well, the business nets out 50 grand a month and the bank notes 12. I mean, even if you're not a big real estate investor, you kind of realize like that's a really great cash flow number. So, so kind of what we do, how our service works is, we consult with the business owner first. So we'll ask all those questions and then we'll determine like, hey, we think this is a fit. And then we'll move forward and we'll kind of give you a checklist of like, this is what our lenders are going to need. And then once we get all those documents together, it's a matter of helping put the package together. We set you up with 3 or 4 of the lenders that are in my network. And they'll basically give you proposals for the deal. Nice. And, well, we walk people through the whole process the whole way. I mean, there's a lot of, especially if you haven't gone through a financing, a serious financing for your business before, it can seem daunting, but it's really not that complicated. It's a lot less paperwork than a mortgage. And so, once you understand that, hey, thousands of these get done every month across the country and, your loan is no different. It kind of helps people realize like, okay, we should stop overthinking this.
Yeah, for sure. With you buying that company out of Illinois, did you find the company first and then get qualified for the SBA loan, or did you get the SBA loan pre-qualification first, then go and find a company to buy?
Well, that's the interesting thing about buying a business. It's not like buying a house where, they look at, okay, well, here's your salary. Here's what you can afford house-wise. You can go get a pre-qualification letter for a $500,000 mortgage. When it comes to businesses, like the underwriting is really directed to the company itself because they could have come back to me and said, yeah, if I found a company that netted out $4 million a year, they would have let me $5 million, no problem. Right. So a lot of the lending, it comes down to what target business you have. So I had preliminary conversation with several lenders about like, hey, I'm trying to find a business between this size and this size in this industry. And, if I found something in these parameters, would you be interested in looking at it? So I basically kind of built out a pre-qualified list of lenders that I know would work with me once I found something. And then once I found something, it was just a matter of pulling all the details together, putting it in front of the bank and going from there.
Gotcha. Nice. That's awesome. And in your experience with your company, do you have maybe a case study example or two that you could share on today's episode that goes over how you help someone get an SBA loan and how they use it to invest back in the business and what type of gain, what type of result they saw from doing that?
Yeah. So I think the first one I'll share, I've got two straightforward ones that come to mind. So, one of the deals that I helped someone else with, it was actually the first other deal that I helped someone else do. He needed capital for a partner buyout. He had a home care business, non-skilled cash pay. And he needed about $400,000 to go buy out one of his partners. He had cash that he was tying up for other business ventures. He didn't want to do it. The business had enough cash flow. So basically, he did that. And he was able to buy out, his partners with the SBA loan and, was able to take them out, run the business how he wanted. So, that was really one good example. Another one, I had a friend of mine, this is kind of probably more relevant to the audience here. I had a really good friend of mine who, he's got several e-commerce stores, FBA, a couple of other stores. And, he was always telling me like, dang man, like I just had to max out $150,000 on my cards just to buy more inventory. I'll be able to double it, but like, it's really annoying. And I said, there's options for this kind of stuff. Why not just go get some SBA financing to refinance out the credit cards, just free up some working capital. So I ended up getting him about, I think it was like $225,000 it was a combination of refinancing out the higher interest credit card debt that he had run up on, it was revolving, but higher interest credit cards that he had run up for buying inventory, as well as gave him some extra capital for working capital and growth. So, but yeah, those are two simple, very straightforward stories. And,
Nice.
Obviously them having the capital made it a little bit more flexible for them, paying a lower interest rate and stuff.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, yeah, if you could explain a little bit more about just, the SBA, how all the options work and what someone can do to really dig into it and look into it further, probably by reaching out to you, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing to do would be, specifically for online businesses, the main options are going to be the SBA 7A and the SBA 7A Express loans. There's also kind of a subsidiary loan product of the SBA small loan program that not a lot of people are aware about. It's a subsidiary of the 7A program called the SBA 7A Small Loan. So it's like a regular SBA loan, except it's just under 350 grand. Not a lot of lenders really focus on it. I don't really understand why, because it's very easy, but it's all the benefits of an SBA Express loan with expedited underwriting, limited questions, and it's a regular term loan. So a regular SBA term loan, you're looking at about 10% with a maximum interest rate of about 6%. And so the benefit that you have as a business owner with that is, it's going to be cheaper than any other rate out there. So for the small loans, those can actually get funded in 3 to 4 weeks from application to funding. And one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about these SBA loans is it's complicated, it takes a lot of paperwork, takes a lot of time, and it's really not the case. You just have to make sure you're working with the right lenders who have a good process in place and actually get a lot of loans done.
Gotcha.
So the other main loan program out there is called the SBA 504 program. So, I mean, let's say you've got a big e-commerce business and you've actually thought about buying a warehouse to go house all your stuff. The 504 loans are for real estate only. The rates are a little bit lower than 7A. Whether you get 7A or 504 for building, they'll both be at a 25-year term, but you'll be looking at probably 3.5% interest versus like 5 to 6% that you would on a build. So those are the main loan programs out there. But I mean, I think as it pertains to the audience that we're kind of talking to today, the main one I think would be just the SBA 7A small loan, because if you just need working capital for growth for an online business, 350 grand is probably going to get you pretty far. I mean, unless you've got large inventory needs, in which case you just flip to a straight regular 7A loan. But the great thing about the lenders I work with is, they don't care how much collateral you have. At the end of the day, as long as your business has the profit to support it, or you've got a clear path to get there.
Mhm.
I mean, that's really all they care about. I mean, how else would, the business I bought, it didn't have a building, it didn't have assets or anything. It just had cash flow. And so that's how I was able to go do it. So,
Yep.
for someone who's got an e-commerce business, let's say you're at $100,000 a month and, your $75,000 credit card is not enough to fill up the inventory. It might be worth it looking at, going to get $150,000 to $200,000 of term debt. And, the payment on that is going to be, substantially lower than what you would be paying in interest on a card. I mean, if you go borrow 200 grand, the payment will probably average out about $2,200, maybe $2,300 a month,
Mhm.
for a loan like that. So,
Yep. Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. I hear you. So what are some of the qualifications that someone has to go through to be able to qualify for any of those, whether it's a 504 or the SBA or the SBA 7A or Express, I should say?
yeah, so the main requirement that they're going to have is that you just have to be a for-profit business organized inside the United States. I mean, that's one of the main eligibility requirements. The SBA does kind of have some disqualifiers around industries, like you can't be in the marijuana space, you can't be a strip club, you can't be, a pyramid scheme or, a hard money lender. But from an industry eligibility standpoint, I think pretty much everyone listening to the audience, everyone in the audience listening today is going to be someone who would be able to qualify. The other main, really the other two main factors that go into getting an SBA loan, it just comes down to, decent personal credit and cash flow. I mean, those are really the two main things. And it kind of, let me shift here because I'm sitting outside and the sunlight is going down on us here in Virginia today.
I see the paint. Yeah, going back to what you just said. So credit score requirements, like what is that?
650
Okay.
is generally good. And
Got it.
we haven't fully announced it yet, but we're actually partnering with we're partnering with a big name in credit repair. And so basically, if you've got because I've seen plenty of situations, you've got a perfectly qualified buyer outside of just, credit, right? They've got good income, the business is good, but they're just, they had something happen one time. They haven't thought about cleaning up. And I mean, believe me, the stuff that they can do with credit repair is crazy. I mean, like they can just delete accounts. Like you've had a charge off credit card, just pay it off, settle it, and they will delete it off your account forever. And it's just like it never existed. So,
Nice.
we do have a partnership we're setting up with that in case that is something that is kind of a concern. But generally what I've seen with most folks who have online businesses, especially in e-com, like personal credit is a bigger area of focus because a lot of people need it to go get credit cards and trade lines to actually, help scale the business. before you get to, needing SBA financing. I generally tell people, like, unless you need more than $100,000 of permanent capital in a business, just stick with your 0% APR credit cards, small trade lines, build up to the point where you would actually need 100,000. And you can use SBA financing to refinance out all debt. I mean, you can run up those trade lines, put it all into inventory, and then go get an SBA loan to refinance it all out. Not a problem. But yeah, I mean, those are really the two main drivers. Is you have to have a cash flow. You have to have cash flow to pay the note that you borrow, and then you've got to have just decent personal credit. Those are the two main things. Everything else can kind of be worked around.
Gotcha. And I'm familiar with the process a little bit because I had a previous committed buyer almost buy my business who was going through the SBA loan process. So I heard a bit about the process from him. The SBA, what do they look at when it comes to a business's revenue and profits picture? Like, do they look at the last 12 months? Do they look at like the plan for the next 12 months? Can you maybe give some more details in regards to that?
Yeah, so every lender is a little bit different in how they're going to underwrite those. I mean, I have some lenders that will specialize more in like startup projects, newer businesses. But every time you go for a loan, they're going to ask for the last 3 years of financials on the business and personal. But what I would tell you, especially with COVID and how COVID has affected a lot of industries, they really only care about how your business performed through 2020. And the reason for that is, I mean, there was plenty of businesses that did just fine in 2019. 2020 came, and then their business model just got flipped on its head, and now they're done. They're not coming back. And so if your business was able to maintain itself through COVID, for the most part, that's enough for the bank to say, okay, well, I mean, if they survive COVID, they've got a good business model that's going to continue working. So, they'll lend to that and they'll work on that.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. Good to know. Well, cool, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. This has been, just a very great episode, very informational. It's really going to help a lot of people that are going to be watching or listening to this because, this is something that they really should look into and know. Regardless of where they're at, whether they're just getting started, whether they're already successful and seeing lots of revenue and profit in their business and they want to keep growing. I mean, this is a very impactful episode. So with that said, I do want to fast forward to our bonus round here. So this is how we kind of wrap up. Yeah, this is how we wrap up the episodes. So I'm going to ask you just 4 separate questions, and each of these questions, the challenge is you have to answer each question with only one word.
Okay, we can do that.
What caused your biggest e-com success to date?
Well, probably get my friend finance. I don't have an e-com business myself, so the biggest success in e-com, I would say, would be helping other people. We're working with about 5 or 6 other store owners right now, doing anywhere between $40,000 and $200,000 a month in sales. We're helping them get finance too. So hopefully we'll have a couple more wins to go notch on the wall pretty soon here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what advice do you have for other online business owners?
I think, to anyone who has an online business, what I would have to say, and this is just kind of coming from an industry prior to what I was doing with healthcare services. I mean, it's very competitive, but, really being able to define how your business is different than someone else's. I guess if you're selling products through Amazon, FBA, like, it's not as big of a deal, but like, if you're really trying to build a brand, you're really trying to build your own kind of rut in the, you want to build your own, mark on the road there. Really just be able to define how you're different, why you're better, and, be able to articulate that very clearly for a consumer. Because if you can't really articulate why you're better and why a consumer should go with you before someone else, I mean, you're on the way out. You're dead. You just don't know it yet. You know what I mean?
Yep. So just distill that into one word, because each of these questions you're actually only supposed to answer in one word.
Oh.
So it's okay. That's the challenge.
So yeah, no, that's hard. I mean, differentiation. I'd just say the word differentiation.
That's awesome. Yep, absolutely. You need a good big idea. That's what it comes down to. Good big idea attached to your product or your brand. So it cuts through the noise, and it's seen differently versus some of the competition in that market as well.
Exactly.
Yep. How would you describe yourself?
That's a good one. Only one word?
Yep.
Calculating. I take very calculated risks. I do have a penchant for risk, but I'm always kind of weighing the pros and cons of how I want to do stuff. But calculating is probably a good word, but I'm quick at it. So if I intuitively feel like something is a way to go. I don't waste a lot of time thinking about it. I calculate it in my head and make the assessment and execute on it.
Yeah, intuition, just go with it. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's great because the contrast to that, there's a lot of people that are concerned with taking those calculated risks even after they weigh it out. And once you logically weigh it out and you see how it can work out logically, you should just go and not even think about it. So I love how you
a lot of people waste a lot of time just worrying about, one of my favorite phrases. It's by a very famous chess player named 𝐅𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻. The quote may be misattributed. There's been some debate if he actually said it or if it was a different chess player, but it's widely attributed to him. And the phrase was, "The threat is stronger than the execution." And it applies mainly in chess, right? If you have to defend or parry against a threat that you're worried about is going to happen, you spend all this time worrying about defending against it. It's just like, so, it's almost worse than if you just let it happen. And so sure. I think a lot of people do the same thing mentally to themselves in business. They sit there worrying about like all the things that could be problems, and they try to build out contingency plans for something that's, 10 branches down the decision tree. But why waste the time on that? Like, your decision tree can only go out in like 3-4 directions at any given time. So go worry about the one that's actually happening, versus all these worst case scenario contingencies that will never come to fruition.
I love it. I love that you're pointing this out. I'm going through a really big business transition right now, and I could focus on the anxiety, focus on the fears, all that stuff that you just mentioned, but instead I'm focusing on attack mode and the inputs that lead to the outcomes, and I'm laser focused on that. But you definitely have to coach yourself mentally to stay in that space, so this way you can get the outcomes you want, as opposed to crumbling, like you said, because of the anxiety or the pressure or the fears. So I love how you pointed that out, because it's just critical to really have that mindset as you're managing your business and you're putting investments into your business, whether it's your own money or your own time, or SBA money and your own time. Either way, it's you got to focus on the outcomes and the activities that are going to get you there.
Right. And that's a lot of what I tell people. Just you just got to be able to execute. I mean, the more you sit there and just kind of twiddle your thumbs, and it's just, you don't get anywhere. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And, I hate to say it, I come across as too short with people a lot of times. I'm like, look, I don't have the fucking time to sit here and wait for you to come up and make a decision. Like, you're either going to, do something or you're not, so it's nice being in my business, because like a lot of that self filters out. Like, the only people that are calling us, the only people who are booking consultations are ready to raise money. Right. So, I mean, if I get someone who books a call and they're like, yeah, I'm not really sure if I want to raise money, I'm just like, all right, fine. We're just going to end the call. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste your time. Only come to me when you've already made the decision you want to go forward with it, because I'm not going to sit here and waste our time on the front end. We're not going to go through all the work getting you ready to get financed, stick you in front of 3 banks, and you just say, yeah, I don't want the money anymore. It's like, okay, well, I mean, that's a waste of everyone's time.
Totally. Yeah, it's smart. Well, I mean, it's smart to have that stance. I mean, it pre-qualifies people, and it protects your time. This way you're focusing your time on where you're going to see the most value and impact. And on top of that, you bring up a very valid point that as CEOs, as business owners, e-com business owners making 10,000 a month, 100,000 a month, doesn't matter. You need to be decisive, because if you're not, you're just wasting time, and there goes your opportunity costs, and whether it's energy.
Well, what's the second word in CEO? I mean, executive. You have to be able to execute. So it's not the chief masturbation officer where you're just sitting there jerking off all day. It's like, you have to be able to execute, and if you can't, sorry, you're fucked. So
totally
hopefully that's not too forward, but I mean, that's just how it is.
I mean, sure, it's true. And I appreciate it. I mean, I'm sure the audience will appreciate it too. There's wisdom in that. Last question, and again, one word. What do you see in your future? Yep.
SPAC.
SPAC?
SPAC. I've got so the back end of what I'm really, the 7A accelerator is really just a feeder business to a back end fintech technology platform that we're building out that automates. We're basically using AI and a bunch of other technology to really streamline the actual process of facilitating an SBA loan.
Okay.
And the underlying technology is something that I would eventually want to go take through an exit like that to raise additional capital for acquisitions and growth and stuff. And I think a SPAC market, especially in the next 2 to 3 years, is, if it's still ripe, that's how I would want to preferably execute on that. Awesome. There's a huge opportunity with just organizing, connecting banks and business owners, right? And that whole divide is an area that has a lot of opportunity. And I think with what we're building, what we're working on the back end with the fintech system is going to be a big piece of that.
That's awesome. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. How old are you, if you mind to ask?
23.
Okay. Where did you get your entrepreneurship? You speak years beyond 23, and which is great. Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know if it's your side or my side, but you cut out there for a little bit. I'm not sure what happened. Can you still hear me?
Sure. Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you now. I couldn't hear the last bit of what you said.
Got it. No worries. Yeah, I was just saying, where do you think you get your entrepreneurship, just mindset and the way you think and all those things, because you're young, 23, but you speak like you're 35, 40 or more with everything you're talking about. So, I'm just really impressed. And, I'd love for the audience to kind of hear where that aspect of you came from.
I think it just came from, I mean, a lot of it's just straight trial by fire. I mean, the more time you spend in the fire, the more toughened you become to it. And it's like, I could go on for hours telling you all the fraudulent shit and just stuff that I saw in the healthcare industry for, when I ran those companies. Like, some of the stuff that you see, like I'm not going to say desensitizes you and jades you to the nature of people, but you really have to toughen up really quick. Going from where I went to up to, after we got our third acquisition done, we were doing about 8.5 million in sales. Mm-hmm. So, going from that to, before I even turned 21, it's drinking from a fire hose in life. So, I was lucky that I had some good mentors who helped kind of guide me, avoid mostly avoidable mistakes. There still were a decent number of mistakes that were still made, but, lost $500,000 on one of the businesses because half the accounts were there by fraud, kickbacks and all kinds of stuff. And so I think a lot of my mentality comes from just like getting screwed. The more you get screwed, the sharper you get. And it's a very short learning curve when you're playing high stakes poker. So I think a lot of it just comes from, a lot of it just comes from experience. And a lot of people say, oh, you're 23. It's like, okay, well, I'm not really, because think about it. The average person goes to school, they get their first entry job at 22 years old. Yeah. I've been working, roughly 80 to 100 hours a week since I was 16 on my own stuff. I graduated high school early. I did all my school online. So, if you really do a comparison and you say, okay, well, on average, let's say it's at 80 on average, right? We'll count vacations and stuff like that. I've been working for, from 16 to 23, that's 7 years. I really have closer to 15 years of work experience. Mm-hmm. If you really like just compare it from an hours perspective. And so it's like, really, if you looked at it at a regular perspective, I'm 36. Yeah. From a regular 40-hour week. So
no, I get it, man. No, you're super.
I don't let age limit me. It's I've got a lot of very, very big, very, very big stuff going on in the background with stuff. And I'll tell you one of the things that I found, especially this is something I think would help with the younger entrepreneurs in the audience, like especially the guys that are very successful, have made, 9, sometimes 10 figures. They really like seeing, someone who's young, who's got their stuff together, is ambitious and wants to do stuff. And they want nothing to do, they want to do nothing more than help, give back, help you in any way they can. And so, I've been fortunate to have a lot of mentors kind of in that net worth bracket. And just even an hour with them here and there, just asking them about, what was it like running this company, just some of the pieces of information that have stuck with me from those conversations have just been, proven invaluable, over time. So, but yeah, just try to surround yourselves with smarter people, richer people than you, and, you'll hopefully be able to pick up the habits that help get them where they are.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I can't. Network and mentors have been instrumental for me too over the past 8+ years. So, but yeah, that's great, man. I love, the energy. I love the experience, the intelligence, way beyond your years. I think it's a really cool background, really cool story. And you've got a great company here that can make a big impact on a lot of different people out there. So I'm glad you came on the show. How can someone reach out and, do business, find out more about how your company 7A Accelerate can help them?
Yeah, so you can definitely go to our site. I'm sure we'll put a link in the description below so you guys can find it. But yeah, it's just 7accelerator.com. The company name is 7A Accelerator, but I just figured it'd be easier from a URL standpoint, 7accelerator.com. Cool. we're constantly updating and revising content to the website. I think I mentioned to you, this is a relatively new full-time venture for me. I did this on the side for people for a while. It was only post-COVID that I realized there was such a demand for this. And I'll leave you guys with an interesting stat. And this is something I ask, bankers that I connect with, and, their assessment is that, they agree with me on it. But my assessment is that, SBA, through the 7A and 504 program, it's about $30 billion a year that are being lent out through banks, through these programs. $30 billion a year is a lot of money, but it is fully my assessment that lending volume would be 20 times that if business owners everywhere just understood what these programs were, how they could leverage it for their business, and had somewhere to go to get the money, right? And so, my goal before the end of the year is we'd like to, by December, we'd like to be helping 500 businesses a month get financed through 7A or 504. We even have some resources for companies that would be eligible for USDA financing. Business and industry loans are a little more technical, but that's where I want to go. And I'm finding a lot more fulfillment in doing this now with what I'm doing than the business that I ran before. I think also like having an alignment of purpose is really important for entrepreneurs, because I remember, you think most people at 21 years old running an $8 million a year company, you'd be waking up every day giddy, happy. There's days I was just depressed. I didn't want to leave the house for 4 days. Just, I hated it. I dreaded the office. I dreaded work. I dreaded dealing with people. And, now I can say, wholeheartedly, like I fully enjoy every day and every moment of what I do. I get up at 6 a.m, work till midnight, fall asleep, and just get up and do it again. Yep. But yeah, like you said, I think there's going to be a big impact from doing this down the road, and 500 people a month is our goal. So, if you have any questions about SBA financing, you just want to see if it's suitable for your business. I do have some lower ticket stuff for, courses and content, just, if you're not ready for SBA financing, but you want to buy some just to kind of familiarize yourself with it, learn the ins and outs of it. We've got a lot of resources that we're hopefully going to be able to putting out here, but yeah, feel free to go to our site, look through it. We have a lot of content on there that is there now. Book a call with us if you got any questions or want to see if it's a suitable fit for your business. But, we're here. Our goal is 500 businesses a month by the end of this year. And, I know we can get there. The need is there. And that's why I'm on the podcast with you here. We're just trying to educate the audience about what's out there and, hopefully be able to plug and play.
Definitely. Well, Josh, it's been my honor. Thank you for being on the show. It's been great. Very educational, very informative, very impactful. Guys, reach out to Josh and his company. Go to www.7accelerator.com. Definitely reach out, take a look at the resources on there. Fill out a form to be contacted if you're serious about going through the SBA loan process. But, Josh has got a great business here that could really help you. So thank you, Josh, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Would love to come back sometime, and hopefully, again, if you guys reach out, let us know you found us on Josh's show, and I'll definitely mention that, we're getting some interest from the audience here. But yeah, I'd love nothing more than to go help, 5-10 business owners just from this episode. If you have any interest at all in getting some outside capital to grow or scale your e-commerce or online business, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to, do an evaluation for you, see if it's a fit, and hopefully get you paired with a lender.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, reach out to Josh. Go to 7accelerator.com right away. Thank you again, Josh, for being on the show. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Talk to you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the e-commerce performance marketing show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment with a timestamp of your favorite part and share it with a friend. Until our next episode, here's to you and the success of your e-commerce business.